Today's number is 18. That's how many hours I'm active taking care of things across all aspects of my life every single day, especially since I started this business. Today, I want to talk to you about the ways you can find balance in your life, your business, and how sometimes that is just not possible, but what you can do about it depending on the season. But before I get to that, my name is Ryan, and I started a TCG business with over $1 million in debt. I'm here to turn cardboard into cash and move from dire straits into distro. Every day, I go over the ups and downs of growing a TCG business and what I accomplished on the previous day. So let's talk about the business in general. Okay, I started this business a little over a year ago. There was a period for a while where it was really just me running around chasing cards, right? Chasing drops or whatever else. We've talked about this and why we developed the server. Now, there was a period after that where in developing the server, we sort of had a core idea of what we were doing. We were still picking up a bunch of inventory, right? The things behind me. But the reality was, while it was a business, it wasn't functioning like a business yet, right? We weren't doing a lot of selling in that aspect. I had selling some cards, I had sold some sealed that I just didn't want anymore. But ultimately, that was more like a Facebook marketplace operation rather than the true business. Things really jump-started in December when I made the conscious decision to get rid of a bunch of inventory that I had, all these slabs, these junk wax slabs that I had, and the slabs were providing me no real value. They were just taking up space in the closet, and that led me to, all right, I need to get rid of this and move into something else that I would desire. That desire ended up being that I could turn what was about $4,000 originally spent. We've talked about this in the previous episode. And I think I got something like $29.50 if I remember correctly in trade. I then positioned that with a actual vendor that I knew who gave me kind of 95%. It was a sweetheart deal because they wanted specific slabs. I rolled that into an Evolving Skies and some other materials, and then was kicked off from there. Then in January, I saw Phantom's first video. At least that was the first time I saw his videos. And in January, when I watched his videos and he was talking about bulk, he made it fun again. Something that I had done from the beginning, that I started this whole operation with. We've talked about that in the past. And in doing so, it made me go, all right, let's get back to the business. There's business to be done. I started an LLC for a reason. There isn't just a Ryan.gov or Ryan.org or Ryan.com. There's AVA TCG, right? And so we were doing that, and I said, okay, how can I make bulk work for me? And I wanted to make it so that it would work for others. The intent was always that I would build a business that originally was to be a sealed both investor and a seller. And I saw the success from DJ's Poke Center. I saw the success from Brian from Bokiani. I saw the success of others. And I said, that is great, but they're a little further ahead now. And I don't want to always be chasing somebody else's tail. So how can I make this operate for me? And so bulk was my way in. And because what I saw from the junk wax slabs was just effectively that people need an escape. You need an escape sometimes. You have slabs that you bought on Whatnot or whatever, like myself, right? You have slabs that you thought you'd get a 10 and it came back an 8, and now nobody really wants it. You went to CGC and nobody really wants it for whatever reasons, right? So that like escape velocity made me go, well, people have tons of bulk. I've talked about this in previous episodes that when you guys open a pack, I look at it like something like 7 to 8 of every of the cards in a pack is basically something for me now, right? And most of you guys are looking for the hits and not necessarily all are master setting, so you don't need every card. But for those who are master setting, it's important to have those cards, and they work through people like me who are going to have large volumes of multiple types of cards so that their master sets can be filled out. In light of that, I said, okay, we got to really jumpstart the business. So that I would say in earnest, while I did some really good and smart deals in December to sort of push myself forward, it was really in January where I would say the business started in earnest. We were making some traction on the Discord. The Discord had grown from like 250 in October to like 500 in November to almost 1,000 in January, and now we're at almost 3,500, I want to say. So we saw some exponential growth. We were seeing some growth patterns in what we were doing on the server. We were seeing some benefits to our people on the server, our members, and we felt like we could do a bit more and turn that into a subscription model that would ultimately give them access to more tools, because there's obviously cost to those tools, not just the time, but actual the servers and everything else. And so we were building and building and building, but that still wasn't my business, right? That wasn't anything in relation to me. It was about the server in large part and what we were able to accomplish on the server. And I still wanted to build the thing that I originally intended when I started the LLC process last year, which was the AVATCG.com, right? That was, let's get sealed to people, let's get the singles to people, let's eventually get into slabs, let's get into whether it be things that are harder to find or other games like Magic and Riftbound and maybe one day One Piece and Arcana and everything else. So we started that business in earnest, like I said, in January. But what we found was it's so much harder now, so much harder. It was sort of easy mode, like almost fun in its own way, right? For the last year, I was working a lot, but it was comparatively easy. Once we truly started a business idea of things where we were kicking up in the bulk and doing more in terms of how do we prepare for the website and the sealed and everything else, man, did the workload get really much more complicated. And now I've talked about this before. My wife works full time. I work full time. I have two beautiful kids that I love in the door. I pick them up most days from school. I am a dad from about 6 o'clock at night till 9 p.m. when they go to bed. So I lose 3 hours almost guaranteed every single night. The weekends are hard because in reality, for a lot of us parents who are also dual hatted between our work life and this side business, you also have to be there on the weekends for them, for the kids, right? So there's an 8 hour window. We kind of work a 9 to 5, pulling the full Dolly Martin, right? Dolly Parton. There's the 9 to 5 that you have to work, and for me, it's more like 10 hours a day, not 8 hours a day. Then you have the business, then you have the kids, then you have you still got to be a spouse, you still got to be a friend, you still got plenty of things, and I also have the server. How do I do that and only basically sleep 6 hours? A little bit of it is sometimes you just got to push through. And that's sort of the reality sometimes. While I'm going to advocate as much as possible trying to find balance, and one of the things I would advocate for you is if you are trying to do this TCG business, stick to doing one thing at a time. Now, that one thing needs to have a triage to it, right? So for me, the triage is always what does the customer need, right? Is it okay? I need to pull cards, or I need to pack a Phantasmal Flames booster box. That always takes precedence, no matter what in the business. Everything else has to take a side seat because if it doesn't, or backseat, because if it doesn't, you're going to lose the customer base that you're building, and you're building with them a trust level that you're not only going to get it there safely, but you're going to get it to there fast. I don't like when a TCG player order takes 2-3 weeks to get to me. Does it happen sometimes? Because just recently I've had some orders that I know I pushed out, and while others got their orders, one or two kicked back to me and I had to resend. That's just sometimes the way it happens, and that's perfectly okay. But that's the only real excuse for it to me is if something happened in the mailing process, not because you took 2 weeks to send it out. I like to be within kind of that 24 to 48 hour window, ideally within the first 24. The push that I would have for you is make a triage list of customers always first. Then for you, if you're dealing with bulk, maybe it's listing is always first or second, right? I would say for me, I'm always in the order of customers, buying, listing. Now, one of the reasons I've done so listing is I'm really kind of always focused on those first two. And it's sort of hampered my capability from a time perspective to do the listing. So now what I would say to you is if you're running a TCG operation and working full time and also doing this and your ends may be very different than mine, come up with that triage list. And for you, it may look like, well, I don't have the customer base, or I'm not dealing in sealed, or I'm only dealing in singles and through TCG Player, I know when the orders come through and I always do them same day. Okay, great. So then for you, your order of operations might be list and then buy, right? You may be in a capital poor position where you need to list and sell everything to get the capital back to then go find the next lot. And so you're always kind of in a lagging mode because you need to come back to the well to find the next lot of inventory in order to accomplish the next, let's say 2 to 3 weeks or maybe 4 weeks of sales. I was talking somebody about this the other day. I watched it was like a podcast with Bronze God, and he was talking about how he uses I want to say like the PayPal pay in 6 months 0% interest for buying Foundation's Play or Jumpstart or something, and how he uses that so that he can break it down at 0% interest. He breaks down all the boxes, he sells all the singles. By the time he's done with the first month, he's paid it off, he's made a little bit back, and then he can kind of go back to the well. And that does make sense. And it's also a smart use of capital debt, right? So if you're running a TCG business, you also need to understand that. It's not just about how you're using your time, it's also about how you're using your money. One of the ways I've effectively gotten around my listing issue is that I've sort of brought in others, right? I've found ways to, on a per card basis, the way I think of most things is on a per card basis. I found ways to make it so that that cost ratio of what labor is going to cost me to have everything sifted and sorted and boxed and ready to go is accounted for in the card that I'm buying, and therefore what I know it will require me to sell at. My labor is built in, it's baked in. Now, your labor as a person, as a business owner, is almost never baked in. In fact, don't bake it in. You don't make X amount of dollars per hour. You make $0 per hour. The business makes money if you make money. That's it, right? And so when you're working on 9 to 5, I would say first you're going to need to figure out what are the priorities you have. What is your capital position? What is the way in which you're operating? For me, I buy a lot. And because again, my second most important thing, if I don't have a customer to serve, I'm always buying. I'm always looking to how I can buy because I know on the back end, I have the processes. I've got other people. I've got the ways to move it. And if I had to liquidate tomorrow, all of it, I mean, literally all of it, I could cash out of it and be either net neutral or a little positive. And so when you're building these systems and you're thinking about your time, you need to account for that as well. Now, your time is more valuable than I think most people understand. And I want you to find balance. I want you to say to yourself, I'm only going to work 2 hours on the business. One of the things I took away from the video with Bronze God the other day was he was talking about how sometimes he struggles with this sort of understanding of, yeah, if I list, I'm going to list for 6 hours because he's just kind of focused so in on it that he can't get away from it. And all of a sudden, 6 hours later, maybe he hasn't done anything else, talked to a friend or got to work out or, slept or ate or any of the other things that are important that you have to do. What he said was, and this harkens back to my professional life, and I'm dressed up like this because I got to go to work after this. He mentioned that he will only do it for 2 hours. He'll give himself an allotment. So he knows he's going to stream for 2 hours. He'll put streaming on and he will do nothing but sorting or nothing but listing. And that's how he does it. And I think for him, it was all sorting all week for 2 hours a day, all while live streaming. And that's the benefit is then he gets to list on Saturday and see the rewards of that for the week that follows. That makes sense. When I, growing up in my business, I wasn't always the best at it. In fact, I was probably dangerously close to getting fired from my first job. It was right after I graduated from undergrad. I was working as a research assistant, I believe is what the term was. And I think I screwed up the alphabet. I'm not even kidding about that. Like literally the alphabet on something. And I could go into that in more details in the comments below if you guys want to know. But I'm doing this work, and what I found was they finally had the patience to really teach me, because I had worked, I'd done fine in school, but they were asking for a better level of professional, something that could do the job, even if it just was understanding how to use the alphabet. And so his name was Nick, my supervisor, and he wasn't a great supervisor. He just wasn't. But he taught me a lesson that I really needed to hear, which was you're doing too many things. You're doing too many things all at once. You're reading a paragraph and you're trying to take care of all of the grammar. You're trying to take care of every punctuation. You're trying to take care of changing the meaning of that, editing it, whatever, right? Do not do everything all at once. You may have to do multiple passes through that same document. And he was particularly good. And I mean, I've reached out to him since as a, let's call it older professional, to say, you have no idea how much you changed my life, how much I hated working for you, but how much you changed my life. Because what he said really resonated, one, because I needed my job. I was working and living in LA, and without the job, I wasn't going to be doing either. And he said, listen, just take your go through the document the first time. But we were talking about 400-page documents sometimes, right? Like, so it wasn't like a small task. But he's like, go through and just edit first, like general edit. Does this paragraph make sense? What doesn't make sense? Read it for the first time just to see what makes sense. If paragraph A on page 1 versus paragraph, I don't know, 10 on page 15. Do these two things balance out? Do they make sense? Or did you catch something that doesn't seem in congruence with one another? Do that first pass through, then do an edit, then do kind of the grammar of it all, then make sure all the punctuation is right, then make sure all the bullet points are the same and everything else. That process of just understanding that sometimes you are unfortunately just going to have to repeat and repeat and repeat. It's part of the nature of the work. And it drilled into me that you don't have to go that fast. In fact, fast can lead to failure. Now, I will say I have advocated in these YouTube videos to all of you, to you specifically, the one watching it right now, that you've got to move faster in terms of your decision making. But that's not the same thing as not taking the time to make sure that what you're doing is successful. Fail fast for sure. But there's a difference between failing fast because you made a decision and you're iterating, and failing fast because you weren't paying attention. Okay. So what I would advocate is similar to what Bronze is talking about. Now, he's saying, I'm going to sort every day, and then I'm going to list on Saturdays. That if that works for your brain and that makes you happy, great. For me, I have, for the last, 2 months, done nothing but sort. So we're talking about like a 2-month version of this, right? I haven't listed a single card to eBay. When I tried, I wasn't happy with the results, so we took down and we will redo it again. TCG Player's a little easier. You kind of sort it. I have a card counter, goes to the counter. I go to the web page. I upload exactly the count of, I don't know, how many Hildas or whatever else, right? That's easier, just functionally is. So it's a little easier to list, so I've done that. But I also waited until I had the 5 rows worth of cards. Here's what all this stems from. I was at my sifter's house the other day picking up a bunch of bricks and a bunch of cards, a bunch of things to do. And what I noticed was there are 4 more box of playables that aren't in my playables list right now. And it almost scared me because it was like, oh shit, I forgot how much more inventory I'm going to end up having to list. So when it comes back to me fully sorted and I need to go through it and list it and do everything else, that's going to take time, but it's also going to be, do I balance that time against TCG Player versus the time that I'm going to need to be spending in eBay? There's only so much time in a day. And when you need to find balance, you need to focus your balance on what, 1, makes your brain happy, and 2, is in the order of your triage. So for you, again, that may be different than me. For me, it's customers first every single time. I do not care if I have 1,000 other things backing up, whether it's business needs or anything else. Whatever those business needs are, it is always going to be customer first. Then is always going to be looking at buying. Yesterday, I spent a huge portion of my day trying to source and figure out all the pricing of I want to say it was like 126 singles. It took a large portion of my afternoon. I could have been bricking, I could have been listing, I could have been doing almost everything else, but these cards were given to me, and the trust factor was I was going to get them a report out in a timely manner, and so that became the first thing I needed to do as soon as I got home. So again, customer first. Now, after that, I went right into bricking, right? Then it was about that process, and I still haven't listed anything. Now, why did I move into bricking versus listing? Because my buyer's coming on Friday. Well, if my buyer's coming on Friday, that's a customer, right? Even if it may not be the traditional customer, the person buying a single or on eBay or a TCG Player or whatever else, or somebody buying something off my website, that's still a customer. They're buying something off me. So I had to get back into that. And so I haven't done any more listing. I haven't done anything else because that is my first priority. I am probably going to finish tonight. In fact, I know I'll finish tonight. And because I'll finish tonight, I will then have Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday to start the whole process of listing singles. But you know what else happens on Wednesday? I'll be doing the pop-up on Wednesday. And that pop-up will probably bring me another, but on average, between 5 and 50,000 cards every single week in pop-ups. That is going to make it possible for my sifters to do more work, and we'll continue this process through, right? It also means that there's more things coming into the business, always be buying for me, right? That's that second piece. Then while they're doing the sifting and sorting and everything else, I still will have the time to do the listing. Now, not all of you have other people who are helping you with that process. So you have to figure out for yourself where in your processes you need to fit your time. Because again, right now for me, it is very busy season. I know it's slow season for sales for some people. It is busy as hell season for me over here because I got a lot of balls in the air and I'm still working between all these other things 18 hours a day. But I got to tell you, the thing that most people don't really talk about is how much you have to prioritize everything else. My family is always priority number 1. I've given you my triage list for the business, but my family comes first every single time. It is hard to find that. It's hard to do that because that 6 to 9 hour, that is my kids' time. The days of the week that they need me to be there because nobody else is around, whether grandma and grandpa can't be here or my wife is working late or anything else, that is their time and I have to be there for them. It's just fact, right? Now, I know people who work all day while their kids are in the background. In fact, the people that I work with, they do that because frankly, that's how they're going to get the job done. And to be fair to them, their kids are either always home or they're very self-sustaining or it's just part of life, right? Like there's no judgment in that. Frankly, I understand it, but I only get like a 3-hour window with my kids on a daily basis. And in that 3-hour window, I've got to make sure that they see their father paying attention to them. Now I will tell you Sunday, my wife who has been working late and is working late all week and has been working late all the past couple weeks said, I know you're behind, take all Sunday. So I took about 8 hours on Sunday and I listened to my kids and I watched them from my window on the outside and they were playing and I got to experience them without having to watch them. And so while I wasn't as much involved on that particular day, and it does have sort of a feel bad tinge sometimes, I was still focusing on them because I was making sure that they were attended to. It was also time for their mother to have some time with her children who she has not gotten to see a lot lately. But today, tomorrow, the day after that, the rest of this week, and all of probably the next couple months because of my wife's workload right now. I'll be watching my kids from 6 to 9. And then there's the real work, the work that I have to do to pay the bills, that pays for this place, that pays for everything else, because this stuff isn't falling off trees, right? Like, but so I got to pay for it somehow. Um, I'm headed there now, right? That right after I finish this video, and whether it goes up before or after, like that's where I'm headed. And I put 8 to 10 hours a day into my work. I love my job. I've always loved my job. I'm particularly good at it. I love the people I work with. But that's 8 to 10 hours. I'm not working on the business, which means in reality, I've got maybe if you figure I'm working 8 to 10 hours, you got an hour, let's call it get ready, an hour for just life in general, like things that you have to do. Let's call that 12 hours. Now we're talking 3 hour window for my kids. That's 15 hours. That means I've got 3 hours to work on these things every day for cutting a video, sorting, sifting, listing, dealing with customers. It doesn't really matter what it is. I've got 3 hours. Now, I typically work between 9 and midnight at minimum. And usually it's between 9 and 1. Sometimes it's 9 to 2. If I can get anything done over a lunch period or anything else, then maybe I may be able to kick it to 5 or 6. But I'm working on this business between 3 and 6 hours a day. And the minimum is 3. Are you committed to doing a side business where you're working 3 to 6 hours a day, even if it's not netting you the returns that you would hope, even if it's not giving you the same as like a part-time job would at $50 an hour? Because if you need money now, then go take the part-time job. If you're looking to build something, then keep following this and others that you're watching in this space that tell you this is how you do it, because they've done it before me, right? There may be some of the people that I've watched, DJ or Brian or any of these other people. If you're looking to kind of break in, you need to figure out what's important to you, what kind of capital you have, and then how you're going to spend your time. It is impossible for you to do this business well otherwise. You can goof around, you can kind of hobby sell, but that's not the same thing as running a business. So be sure to make sure you're accounting for your time. Yesterday, we made a bunch of bricks. We got a bunch of singles in. We priced those out. It came to the total lot value in trade was about 2,400. It was a very large lot. The singles came out to like 1,400 of that or something. It was an impressive amount of singles for me. It'll be all going up onto the eBay. I'm excited about that. For those of you who have credit with me and you've been looking, please look out for the eBay soon, because that's going to be loaded with a bunch of goodies. We also had a couple conversations with the potential buyers, because I like to work with other bulk buyers. And then today we're obviously going to work. Unfortunately, we don't go in every day, but when we do, we have to sort of dress the part. And then we will be doing the last of our bricks, and then we will looking forward to trying get to the listing as soon as possible. My guess is the bricks are going to be the only thing that we're going to be focused on today. Listing will start tomorrow, the pop-up as well. So in the meantime, I always like to end, be good or be good at it. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time. Be sure to know what your time is worth.